C1. You are listening at FameTV.info. A blinding morning light shone through the gaps of the curtains, causing Mujin to be unable to open his eyes, but his body was in too much pain. It felt like his body was falling apart. He felt very uncomfortable. She suddenly thought of something and sat up, looking at the man beside her. The man beside her also opened his eyes and abruptly sat up. The atmosphere was tense for a moment. The two of them stared at each other. Eugene blinked her long eyelashes, and looked at the upper half of the man's body, her mind empty for a few seconds. Her thoughts slowly returned to reality. She glanced at the clothes scattered on the ground and finally recalled the madness of that man last night. There were too many scars on her body. Li Shuxi's eyes were a little strange, and immediately after, released a terrifying cold light. Mujin, you truly do not know shame. Mujin was startled. She had not even said anything, yet he had already scolded her. Young Master Li, it seems like you were the one who took me in last night. This is my room, the man coldly snorted, his eyes filled with coldness. You planned to climb onto my bed the moment you returned to your home country. Mujin, you've grown up. Mujin bit her lips and glanced around the room. She should have been working yesterday. He didn't know who knocked her out and threw her here. You've already told me. I just returned home, how would I know where you are? Her fingers tightly clenched the blanket on her body, but her lips pulled back into a smile. Last night, the one I resisted was me or something like that. Now that we have to go back and forth, it would be really disrespectful. Young Master Li, the methods used by the second miss of the Mu family to investigate other people were already at the peak of perfection a few years ago. Li Shuxi cast a sidelong glance at her, and spoke with clear disdain. It's not just 1 or 2 days since you want to climb onto my bed. If I were to touch you, would you resist? Mujin's face paled. His words were too straightforward, but they were also the truth. She had been headstrong and willful, using her brother's influence to track down his place of work and climb into bed with him again and again, wanting to be his woman. But not 2 years ago and last night. Although her mind was still muddled, she remembered that there was someone who resisted. Could it be? Didn't you? She wanted to say something, but Li Shuxi got off the bed and changed his clothes. And Mujin, don't say such a thing too cleanly. The man's voice was as sharp as a knife. Huan Bar is an industry owned by Li's. Anyone can tell that you are plotting something when you go to work there, and you still have the face to say it, don't you? Damn, she really didn't know that she's only been back a few days. However, Mujin narrowed her eyes and looked at him. I just entered the job yesterday, how do you know? Li Shuxi's hand paused for a moment, before he continued to button his shirt. After he finished wearing it, he turned around and looked at her. Is it going to be hard for me to find out? He sneered. Miss Mu condescended to be a mere waitress. From the minute you entered the office, the entire city knew about it. Many people warned me against you. He put his hand under her chin. I didn't expect you to actually climb into my bed. The corner of Mujin's mouth pressed down. She knew that her reputation was not good, but that was still something from before. The current Mujin could not do such a shameless thing like before. Moreover, she had just lost her body to him. Was there really a need for him to be so anxious to get rid of her? She was filled with anger and grievance, but she couldn't say anything to the man. After a long while, she finally let go of her white fingertips, the corner of her mouth slightly raised. She looked at him, her red lips slightly opened. Mr. Li, you are right, I did it on purpose. The reason why I'm serving at the bar is to wait for you. Were you satisfied with my service last night? How about a good comment? Sir, since you've enjoyed my first time, you should at least give a good price, right? With that, she lifted the blanket with a smile. The bright red light on the bed sheet was very eye-catching. Mujin, you're not here, but you became like this. His stern shout could be clearly heard in the room. The man's angry and cold roar could be heard. Listen to the full novel at FameTV.info, direct link in the description.